Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, Retro Life for You, movies of the 1980s. My name is Chris Adams, host of your show, and with me this week I have two very special guests with us. One is more very special than the other one, and he knows I'm not talking about him, but we got Tim Williams with us,
Aw.
our friend of the show, 80s Flicks Flashback, and if I can't pick on him, I got to pick on somebody, Our other very, very, very special guest host this week is Miss Catherine Mary Stewart. Welcome back to the show.
Hello. It's nice to be back.
It's great.
We did it this time.
We did it. We did it. We tried this once before and we had some email issues. I don't know how to explain this, but I can only imagine that there was an email server issue between me and where you were at the time. And that's all I can figure because all my emails came in the very next day. You said it just all at once or something. It's crazy.
It was like this huge delay. I mean, I was like, I'm waiting. You send me a link, all this stuff, and then later on, all these things came in, and I was checking and checking and checking. I don't know. I feel like it had something to do with the server. I don't know. But anyway, we did it this time.
It had to be. It had to be.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to pick up. We were actually doing something different last time. We'll let that go for later. But this time we're doing Night of the Comet. This is part of our scary month of October for horror movies, and Night of the Comet is a great classic movie out there that a lot of people love to this day today. I watched it just again last night. I wanted to just make sure I refresh my memory, and it does not get old watching. It's got this thing about it to where it's supposed to be like a horror movie, but it's also like it feels part sci-fi in a way, although there's no aliens or anything. But I mean, it just feels part sci-fi, part horror. There's some humor to it.
I feel like it crosses a lot of genres, don't you? I mean, it's very tongue-in-cheek in a way. It's very sort of 80s Valley Girl kind of a thing, but it's got the horror with the zombies. But it's interesting because I was talking to somebody about zombie movies, and when you think of it, there are only like 2 or 3 real zombies in the movie. The first one that I fight in the alley, and then the little kid that's chasing Hector around. I mean, as opposed to these zombie movies where there's millions of them just falling over each other. And, but it had that element, and then it had some sci-fi because it's a comet, but it had the humor as well. I mean, I love that. I think it's kind of unique that way.
Yeah, I think the back half feels more sci-fi because of the government agency that's trying to figure out, that's trying to capture them and test them and all that kind of stuff. So that to me gave it more that sci-fi kind of element with the wicked government trying to do experiments on humans, and zombies or whatever.
But you know what though? You know what? If you had gotten Uzis instead of MAC-10s, the government people might not have got you.
Hello, Dad would have got us Uzis.
Exactly. I don't know what he's thinking. There
is a story behind that, by the way.
Oh, what's that?
Okay, I'll tell you the story.
We love stories. Bring them on.
Okay, excellent. So Tom Eberhardt, the director-writer, he wanted Uzis originally, and the producers were like, yeah, no, those are too expensive. We're just going to do these MAC-10 things. And so flashback to the beginning of the movie, you see a picture of Sam and Reg and our dad, the Green Beret. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Dad is Tom Eberhardt.
Really?
Dressed as the Green Beret.
That's hilarious. I was going to ask you about y'all's pictures. Were those like younger now? Because you look younger in those pictures versus what you did in the movie. To me,
oh really?
Were those supposed to be like current pictures, or was it maybe a couple of years earlier?
No, I think they were supposed to be current. I mean, Kelly and I. That's another story. I'll get to that story too. But let me finish this one because it's pretty funny. So the MAC-10s kept jamming and jamming and jamming, and that wasn't intentional. And finally, when we were doing that scene, shooting the car, and it was jamming over and over again, Tom said to Kelly, just say, Daddy would have got us Uzis. It was kind of like, because he was Daddy in the picture, and it was kind of a jab at the producers. And so that wasn't in the script originally, but Tom gave Kelly that line, and I said, well, the car didn't notice the difference, or whatever I said. But that whole scenario was pretty much ad-libbed. But yeah. And then I forget what we were talking about. The other thing you were mentioning.
The pictures.
Oh, the pictures. I couldn't tell if maybe you were a couple years younger in the picture. Like it was supposed to be older pictures, or was it more of a current thing that was, and you were just, maybe done it differently or something.
Well, we actually took those pictures after Kelly and I hadn't even met each other. She auditioned with somebody else, and I auditioned with somebody else. And when we found out, we found out that we got the roles, and they said, come down to the studio. We just want to do some photos for props on the thing. So it was before we started shooting, but just after we realized we got the job. I think my hair's a little longer. I must have got a haircut or something like that. When I look at it, it looks like my hair is longer. But no, I mean, I don't think it was intentionally, to make us look younger.
It could just been me.
Yeah.
Honestly, it could have just been me when I watched it, because it's just one of those scenes where you glimpse at it and you go to the next scene, and it's not like I rewound back and looked again to say, wait a second, those older pictures, because no, I wouldn't have done that.
Right.
I'm just wondering, being a zombie movie, and you're talking about there was just a couple of zombies really in there. Zombie movies they're so different in how in what the zombies are. Like, for example, I've seen somebody pose this question before: would you rather your zombies be Walking Dead zombies from the TV series, or would you rather be World War Z zombies? Because like one of them is like slow and dumb, it seems like, and the others are like super fast and strong and chase you around. And
Right. Yeah, I think I like the slow, dumb ones.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, on that Walking Dead TV series, the zombie that I fought in the alley, they replicated that on The Walking Dead.
Oh, really?
In costume and everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Seriously.
Like, how did I not get on this show?
Okay. So that actually works in pretty well. A friend of mine said, I want you to ask this question, but I looked it up last night and it wasn't true. So I said, I'm not going to ask that question because it's just not there. But he said the same thing about the movie Dead Heat with Joe Piscopo and Treat Williams. There's a zombie in there that looks just like the alley zombie that you fight. And I went and looked at it, and I said, okay, well, if you look at it closely, no, it's not the same thing. But the overall makeup on the face kind of resembles the zombie you fought in the alleyway. The guy's a lot taller though, and he's just a different guy altogether. He just didn't look at it closely. But I was like, now that you mentioned that though, that's really kind of funny and ironic.
I know.
That replicated the whole thing. You said the clothes they had on and everything.
Everything, the whole costume, sort of the knit beanie cap and all that other stuff. The whole thing was replicated.
Do you recall what part of Walking Dead it was? Like first season
I didn't.
Or something?
No, I don't think it was the first season. I think it was well into it, but somebody saw it and recognized it and sent me like a clip. It was a while ago now, but I was like, seriously, hello, I'm for hire. I can fight this zombie again. That would be great.
That's awesome. Talk about a really
kind of fun.
I mean, talk about like a throwback on something. You see in some movies where they'll give a little throwback. Like I was going to mention to you once before in Bernie's how I noticed that in Weekend at Bernie's there's a throwback to Rambo, where Jonathan Silverman calls the other guy, says, you can come out now, Rambo. And one of the guys that they knocked out was the gardener, and the gardener is the bad guy from Rambo 2, the first Blood Part 2.
Kidding.
And his gardener outfit almost resembles his Viet Cong outfit. Almost. So they said it was a nod to the director because the director did Rambo.
Right.
So stuff like that cracks me up, and it would be so awesome if we had seen in The Walking Dead, just in the background, even we see you fighting that zombie.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Flipping me around, smashing it. That would be so much fun. And then take off on my motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A little cameo.
Yeah. I know. I love all that stuff. Little nods to, you hear about Weekend at Bernie's is referenced all the time. But so all of these movies have been sort of referenced, whoever's involved with them, or involved with, directing or whatever, who have been a fan of these movies from the 80s, they'll try to plug something.
Yeah. That's what's cool about the people that are coming up now. I mean, of course, they're maybe not the 80s kids like we were, but they were still influenced by that, whether their parents showed it to them or they discovered it themselves. And you see all those nods to the 80s that we catch because we lived it. And like the younger generation kind of goes over their head, but you can see, oh, they're definitely influenced by this. And you can see that, you know, like a movie like Night of the Comet, which, you know, a lot of people have kind of forgotten, but still a cult favorite, that to be in The Walking Dead is a huge, like, huge homage, and just a good honor for you guys to say like, hey, you know, we made this movie and maybe it didn't do as great as we thought it was going to, but it still has it's still
impact,
acknowledged,
right?
Impact now.
Yeah.
So, like, would The Walking Dead be successful without Night of the Comet?
Of course not.
Right.
Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Buffy was inspired by Sam's character. I think they say that there's a little bit of both of us in there, but you know, she was a cheerleader and all that stuff. So physically, I think it more her, but maybe not as sort of goofy or whatever.
Right.
Maybe there's a little more toughness, which I think is my character more. At any rate, that's one of the amazing things about these little movies that you did so long ago, is that they do still have some sort of an impact, you know, and the fans are so dedicated and diehard. It's really kind of cool trying to get their kids who are used to, you know, all the Marvel movies and all the special effects, trying to get them to appreciate. I mean, that's a tough task. But I mean, sometimes they get to them. The difference is, I think, is that the characters, if you sort of, you know, kind of ignore all this, that the special effects aren't as sophisticated and all that other stuff, but you actually watch it for the story arc and the characters that are relatable on some level. They're different that way, you know, and I think they do have sort of a more longer lasting impact kind of a thing, because the kids that watch them sort of they feel like they could possibly be those characters.
Yeah, exactly. So I got a question. So what drew you to Night of the Comet? Was it something that you pursued, or did they reach out to you, or you just like, how did it come across, you know, your path?
Yeah. Well, I had just done The Last Starfighter. So that kind of, you know, put me sort of on the map in Hollywood. So I think they brought me in thinking I was right, although the two characters are very different. But, you know, it was, you sort of skipped a lot of steps when you are kind of, you sort of made a somewhat of a mark as an actor. So, for instance, like the casting person meeting me for the first time or something like that. I think my the audition, I did audition for it. Kelly actually has a great story about how she read the script and all this. I don't remember exactly. I think I liked the character of Regina because it was sort of a departure for me. I always kind of played the girl next door. That was what that they tended to cast me as. And so this was kind of a departure. So I liked that element of it. But like I said, I skipped the first maybe few steps of auditioning. And, you know, I think maybe I had one or two auditions. The second one was paired with somebody, and then they offered it to me. So that was kind of great, you know. I mean, but like I said, I mean, the character really appealed to me. It also, it was kind of like more me, really. I sort of have the physicality of the girl next door, but mentally, not so much. So this was super fun for me to do.
Yeah,
I think what it was, Tim. I think what it was, Tim, is her previous boyfriend was a game player, a gamer, and they needed somebody who could come into this movie and be a gamer herself. And
that's right. I learned everything from Alex.
So they brought Mags in to play some Tempest and changed her name and.
Yeah. That was fun. And, you know, it's so funny how these games, and at the time when you're working and you're sort of doing one thing after another, that there happens to be these games in both the movies, and it's so funny because you don't really think about these things until you look back years later and go, oh yeah, that's right, because they're such different movies also.
Oh yeah, yeah, but video games are. I mean, that was such a huge thing then. So it was common.
Totally.
You know, how many arcades do you see in 80s movies? Like that was the place to hang out and the things that kids were into. So I mean, myself included. But yeah, I was gonna say, definitely see a departure for the role, because you definitely have an edge in this movie that you don't really see in the other roles. I mean, the other roles are great. You do great, but this one, I think, yeah, it stands out in your filmography as one where it's like, you got a little bit of attitude, you're more rebellious, you've got a little bit of a, tough streak, but, you also have that, the of course, the 80s montage where you're all trying on the different outfits and, kind of has that, you're like, she's still a girl.
Unapologetically a teenage girl, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I think the line in there's like, where would two teenage girls go? They're going to the mall, like that's.
Yeah. The stores are open.
Yeah. Get whatever you want.
Don't need that credit card.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
do you mentioned earlier, Tim, about how well it did theater and everything, but I was really surprised to see there was only had a budget of $700,000 for the movie. But it turned around and it made like 14.4 million. I mean, to me that sounds like a huge success. I mean, unless I'm missing something in the numbers that I don't understand. It sounds.
I think it's over a large period of time, so that might have something to do with it. But
so that wasn't just opening, or that wasn't just the box office gross. I'm seeing 14.4.
Well, it might be total probably. I mean, it really. I don't really spend a lot of time looking at the numbers, but I mean, it was a very low budget, but that's kind of what made it great too. I mean, I always sort of refer to it as like guerrilla filmmaking. We were sort of all in it together. We didn't have things like dressing rooms or anything like that. And even although the makeup guy, he doesn't remember this, but one day he just didn't show up. But he says, I remember that. But so Kelly and I just did our own makeup and hair, which was perfectly fine. I mean, we knew what we were doing. But there was maybe one trailer and we shot at the weirdest times, which is why we could shoot in downtown LA and there was nobody there. It was like Christmas Eve or something like that. And in those days, now it's become very residential. There's a lot more people downtown, but at that time, nobody lived down there. And so it was literally abandoned. I mean, you couldn't do that anymore without really good CGI, I guess. CGI. But that was like real.
For a day, yeah.
Right. So we were working like Christmas Eve, and I don't know, maybe we got Christmas off. I'm not sure. And just really weird hours, but it was what was required to get it done, and the special effects were minimal. I mean, the DP was incredible with his lenses and things. I mean, all that red stuff is lenses that he created. So I think it was a really, really great group of creative people that managed to get this movie done for $700,000. And I guess we weren't paid very much. I want to say.
We've actually discussed that before here on other episodes of the podcast about the budget that we see listed for movies, because IMDb will list the estimated budget, the opening weekend, gross worldwide, and all this stuff. So we tend to throw that out a lot, and I'm always asking Travis, this is the budget. Now, does that include what they paid the people to be in the movie too? It's got to, right?
The budget includes the pay.
We're thinking so, and he's like, I'm not sure, but I would think so. I'm like, yeah. I said, what? Some of these got some really low budgets. I mean, they got these people to get this. And I was like, man, that's I guess that's awesome for them, but they certainly deserved a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Making these movies and everything.
Yeah.
And I guess it's one of those things till eventually somebody set the bar. Probably, I don't know who it would have been, but somebody probably set the bar for what pay should really be for people. And you guys started making more. Maybe it went along, or maybe it's because time changed or something. I don't know, but I see these budgets like a 700,000 to 500,000, and it blows my mind. And then the money's made back off of it is just amazing. But you mentioned Christmas time. I told Tim earlier, I said, next time I have an argument with somebody about Die Hard, I'm gonna throw Night of the Comet in with it too. Night of
Right?
the
It's a
Comet was a
Christmas
Christmas movie.
movie.
The guy had at
Oh.
one point, dude had a Christmas suit on.
He
came as Santa Claus. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a Christmas suit. I'm sorry, I meant Santa Claus suit.
well, that covers a lot of ground, Christmas suit, but I mean,
I guess it does.
Specifically, it was into. But yeah, and when they sort of go through the town, city or whatever, it's California, but you see a lot of Christmas decorations and things like that.
Yeah, there's a Christmas song that plays in the beginning too, I think.
Yeah. And again, we shot it around that time anyway. But in LA, there's no. It doesn't. It's so weird being in LA for Christmas because it's not cold, obviously, and it's just I feel sorry for the Santa Clauses because they must be really hot.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I did a trip to Hawaii the end of November. We were flying back to the States, and in the airport they were playing Christmas music, and you're like, it's 85 degrees, everybody's in shorts and tank tops, and it's like, this just doesn't feel right. Or you're driving on the street, you see inflatable snowmen and palm trees. It's like, this is Christmas in Hawaii seems a little odd to me, but they make it work.
Why not, right?
Where are you, Tim? Where are you right now?
I'm outside of Atlanta, so I'm southeast.
Well, you're in the South. I mean, it doesn't snow a lot, does it?
No.
We get more ice here than snow.
Yeah. Where are you, Chris? You're not Atlanta too, are you?
No, I'm just outside of Nashville.
Okay. All right. Nice.
Yeah.
God, I love that part of the country. It's beautiful.
Definitely fun to be here. I think the first time you came on the show for us, I was in Florida. Actually, I was in Panama City.
Oh,
but we had speaking of hurricanes from earlier, we had a hurricane called Michael that came through there that made me say, "Nope, that's enough for me." I moved back home. So,
did you grow up in Nashville?
Just outside of Nashville. It's I always when people ask where I'm from, I always say Nashville because no one has ever heard of Pleasant View, Tennessee. If I say Pleasant View, Tennessee, all I get is, well, is it? And I'm like, it is a Pleasant View. Yes, I like it quite a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody knows where Nashville is. So if you say Nashville, like, oh, it's cool. Nashville's fun. You like music. It's a place.
So you guys weren't affected at all by the hurricane?
Rain, thunderstorms.
Yeah. It didn't hit us as bad as they expected. Like they really thought Atlanta was going to get hit really hard. But I think they said it kind of shifted a little bit more to the west than they expected.
To the east.
So we still so we still got a lot of rain, and we had like a weather front that was here before the hurricane came. So we had we just had like 4 or 5 days of rain, and then the wind was pretty bad. We had some power outages, like we lost power in a couple of areas, down trees. I mean, it wasn't. We drove down to Orlando this past weekend. My daughter's birthday was yesterday, so we went down there. But driving through South Georgia, like Valdosta, with the Georgia-Florida border. I mean, trees completely knocked down, billboards twisted up, and they did hit them really hard. So we're very, very grateful.
And isn't there another one coming up? Like,
they're tracking one now. I think it's going to go through more the central part of Florida, like going towards Jacksonville, that way. So, or like cross Tampa to Jacksonville.
But there's always a possibility. You don't know where it's going to turn is the problem. These things are a little tricky.
They try to plan as best they can, but you really don't know until it hits what it's going to do. So,
it's oh boy. Anyway,
off
on that tangent. But are there any zombies?
No, but
is there a comet?
This show is well known for going off on side tangents, so no worry.
But speaking of comets, though, we were driving back and we heard something news about like Halley's Comet. It's about time for that to come back around again, and I was like, really. I was like, wow, is it really time for Halley's Comet again? And then, of course, when Chris reached out, like, hey, we're doing Night of the Comet, I was like, well, isn't that cool to know that, Halley's Comet was a huge thing around that time in the 80s. So it made sense that they would make a movie about a comet that causes this, disaster or whatever. So when I was watching it the other night, my wife came in the room. She was like, what are you watching? Night of the Comet. She's like, we were just talking about Halley's Comet. I was like, yeah, exactly.
And in the beginning of this movie, when it first starts, there's an older man talking to people outside, and he mentions Halley's Comet.
Yeah.
As a little funny thing there, if you bring that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny
do
because
you,
as a kid, like there's like, hey, these Comet will be back again in like 50 years. And you're like, I'm not even gonna be alive. That's so old. I'm never gonna be alive when that
50
happens.
years. Oh my God, no
After
kidding.
the year,
Remember when it was like, can you believe somebody lived like 10 years?
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
come on, I remember thinking about making fun of my dad when he was 35. I remember
Yeah.
that. I mean, here I
Yeah.
am, well past 35,
Yeah.
and not
Oh
making fun of it
man.
anymore.
Mhm.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No
I remember my dad's 40th birthday, all the, over the hill and the tombstones and stuff like 40.
kidding.
Like, man, my life was good at 40. That's not even, we're not even close to being done.
I know. 40 is nothing.
Oh
But,
my gosh.
I mean, for me, even when I was a kid, I kind of just wanted to be older because I
Mhm.
just hated being treated like a kid. I wanted to be treated like an adult, goddammit. And so I am kind of like reveling in this, I don't know, this age, put it that way. I feel
Mhm.
good. I'm pretty fit. I mean, yeah, my joints and stuff are falling apart, but I feel good. And I'm like, wait a minute, how much more time do I have here? Because I'm just getting started.
Right.
Well, people live to be a
Yeah.
lot longer these days, so that's a good
Mhm.
that's a good point right there. So
We've learned a lot in the
I
last.
say we may be around to see a zombie apocalypse before it's over with.
Oh no, yeah, well, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean,
Now,
oh man.
what all do you remember about the crew that you worked with? I mean, not the crew of the movie, but the other actors you worked with. What all do you remember about them? I know you talk about Kelly a lot. Y'all been to a lot of the cons together and
That's
stuff. But
right.
what about
Kelly
like
and I are
Robert?
still really good friends. Robert Beltran, yeah, he was so sweet. I think he hesitated with this movie from what I understand. I don't know, but I've heard that
Mhm.
Kelly is the one who knows all these junk. It's so funny. I just kind of like show up, I do my thing and I leave. But she was really close with the producers and she was watching the dailies and all that stuff. But she had a little inside track, I think. But apparently he was like, yeah. But then Mary Warnoff did it, and they had worked together a few times.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of the reason he decided to be on the show. I wouldn't be surprised if he was like paid the most as well, because also he was much more established than we were. He was really, really sweet and very. I always say his voice was like butter. He was very sexy, and I was the sister that got to like flirt with him a little bit. So that was super fun. He was great, a lovely
I
guy,
know that
really fun.
I know him and Sharon Farrell before this movie started. Well, they didn't star exactly. They were co-stars or they were actors in the Lone Wolf McQuade movie that Chuck Norris had done. That's my favorite Chuck Norris movie. But just before this was filmed, they were in that together.
Okay. Are you there? Uh-oh. Oh
Uh-oh.
no.
I think Chris froze up.
Oh, okay. I thought it might be me.
No, I'm not frozen.
Are you there?
Oh, you did for a second on our end.
Frozen?
No, did my voice go? Did my voice go crazy or something?
No, you just completely froze up.
No, everything just stopped. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh, I probably just
I
probably just stopped. We're always worried something's gonna happen now.
Yeah,
I know. And when you weren't coming up and on the link, I was like, oh man, is this just never gonna happen for us?
No, I think it's all good right now.
Yeah.
I just may have been still or something here like I am right now. It could have been something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
it's all good.
No, I noticed that Sharon was Sharon Farrell the stepmom in this. Is that who she was?
That's right. Yeah,
I thought so. Yeah, I thought that was her because she was definitely in the movie with him before that. And you're say his voice is like butter or something. To remember him being from Lone Wolf McQuade, he had I don't want to say a youthful. Well, yeah, it's kind of a youthful tone to him. He had like a high pitched voice. It seemed like through most of the movie.
Oh, is that right?
Because he was supposed to be referred to because Chuck Norris kept referring to him as kid. And I guess maybe they thought since he's supposed to be a lot younger than him coming into the police force and everything, they would give him something that definitely differentiated him. And his voice was a little bit higher pitch, it felt like to me. But
okay.
maybe
I don't want to
say not the whole movie exactly, but there was a lot of parts in it where maybe he just got all excited and his voice got higher. I don't know, but
Maybe, or maybe it was a part of his character too. Yeah,
I'm sure it probably was. I mean, because he's supposed to be very useful and just getting onto the force and everything, and having to be with him, who's an older guy, veteran, and partnering with him and stuff. So, but yeah, I noticed they worked together in the movie before that. Do you recall anybody who you competed with for the role of Reggie?
I don't. I don't know who else they saw. I don't know who Kelly read with. But I know that she was more physically similar, like she was blonde and all that other stuff. But I don't know who it was at all.
I know Heather Langenkamp read for the role of Samantha. I think I read that.
Right, she and I read together because she had sort of darker hair, and we were more physically similar. So I read with Heather, and Kelly read with someone else. And yeah, they ended up putting us together. We don't look exactly alike, but I think it worked out okay. You know,
y'all had great chemistry together, which I think really, helped a lot. So that of course you're playing sisters, so there's going to be that little friction, but it worked. They don't get along all the time, but you can tell that you loved each other, and there was camaraderie there. So it definitely came across. So, but I will say
that whole the stores are open thing, that was my little maternal, I'm the older sister trying to make her feel better about, what she was talking about the one boy that she had a crush on. I guess she's not going to be able to see him anymore, all this other stuff. So yeah, we had a good relationship, and we still do. We're still really good friends. I just saw her a couple of weeks ago.
Very cool.
We got a con together, or?
No, I was in LA. There were 2 screenings of The Last Starfighter at this sort of iconic little independent theater called Lemley's in LA. And Lance Guest is a good friend with one of the Lemleys, and they screened The Last Starfighter. So there were 2 screenings of that. So I was there for about a week. Stayed at Lance's house, which is great. I'm heading there again. There's another.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's where you were when we tried to do that at the show. I think you were there for that for the screening.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I blame Lance's house for our problems.
He might be the last Starfighter, but his internet was terrible. Just tell him I said so.
That's okay. Come on, join us in the 21st century, Bob.
Wow. Rig would not be happy with this.
Another character that I've actually reconnected with is Ivan Roth, who played Willie the Box Boy. The guy who looks I guess he could be officially a zombie too, when he comes with his buddies and shoots us up in the mall and stuff like that. He's such a great guy. He's so funny. He's been to one convention with us, but he's just not as big a role, but he's such a character, and he's so much fun to talk to. Like, he does a great interview kind of a thing about how he came up with the voice and all this other stuff, just the whole process. Really good guy. Lives in Los Angeles, and I try to see him when I'm there too. And so there were so many great actors, and Michael Bowen, for instance. I mean, he's done a ton of stuff. Jeffrey Lewis.
Just he's one of my favorites.
Love him. Worked with him a couple of times in different things. I just love him. I just love looking at him. He has those eyes, those blue eyes. That was one of my favorite scenes, aside from the beating the zombie and the beating up the zombie in the lane. Yeah, alley. That scene with him just alone in that room. God, it was so much fun to do.
See, we need to add some extra credits in the movie with your name on it. We need to put Stunt Woman on there too. So it's like,
hello.
I mean, all except for driving the motorcycle down the road. I believe you did most of your stunts at that point, right?
Oh yeah, we did everything. We had to. So yeah, I before I was an actor, I was a dancer. So I was pretty physically fit and flexible and all that other stuff. So, and the guy who played the zombie who I had the fight with, he was a stunt guy. So I trusted him. I knew he wasn't going to hurt me. I was fine. Yeah. So I just put everything into that, and it was super fun. And they trained us on the MAC-10s. We had to learn how to shoot them properly, and that was interesting. Going to the shooting range and learning the things you do and you don't do, because like yeah, you have to. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but every decade or so, somebody gets either killed or seriously injured by a weapon on a set.
Yeah.
And they're deadly weapons, and even though they're supposed to only have blanks, you can't be more careful. You just
Yeah,
can't. I mean,
even with the blanks, even with blanks in the gun, I think the guy's name was John Eric Hexum from television years ago. He kind of proved that point, unfortunately, that you can't really play around with a gun with blanks in it, because they're
nope,
definitely
because there could be a little bit of lead. I guess there was just a
Mhm.
little bit of lead left in there, and
there was something.
whatever.
Yeah.
But there's even an explosion. I mean, there has to
Right.
be explosions.
Right.
So if your whole, from what I remember that very clearly, that event, and I think he was playing around and he put it up to his
He
head.
was
or something
playing
like
a prank on his castmates, and they put it up near his temple, and not
And,
thinking, I guess, or not knowing, or understanding maybe, or something. I don't know,
yeah,
but
you just cannot be
Mhm.
careful. And of
Yeah.
course, the whole Alec Baldwin thing is just
Still.
such an incredible tragedy. Such an incredible tragedy. Yeah.
So when
Anyway,
you
we
guys made
learned
this
about
movie,
Yeah.
when you guys made this movie, and I was reading that Mary, was it Warnoff or
Warnoff.
Warnoff?
Mhm.
She said that she doubted the film would have any longevity to it. It felt more like a fad movie than a cult classic. And I mean, it's hard to tell at the time when you do something where something's going to go. But this was like a couple of years after the fact of filming, and I don't really know where it was at that point in time. And in your opinion, maybe thinking back, even around that time of 86, 87, do you think did you ever think that movie may carry on forward and be something like that, like a cult classic in a sense? Or was it just, one and done, it's done with, it's gone, move
Yeah.
forward?
No, I not even a little bit. I mean, when it opened up in theaters, it left very, very quickly. What saved it was VHS. It became it really found its footing with VHS, and from stories that I hear, these conventions are so much fun because you hear the people, the audience's experiences, and they're all so varied and so interesting. But most of them, especially with the people that are a little bit older, they would watch this movie over and over again in the VHS machine, and sometimes it would be like the babysitter after school or something like that. And it was a kind of movie that parents were okay with their kids seeing. It really. I feel like this is the same with The Last Starfighter. It's sort of that in between stage between like Walt Disney movies and then adult movies. It's right sort of in that cuff,
Oh yeah. That was
kids.
that was the cusp of PG-13, where it was starting to stretch that boundaries between what's a quote unquote family film and what's a little bit more adult, where you're trying to appeal to both at the same time and finding that balance. And so you're thinking about, like, this is one, Night of the Comet is not one that I saw as a kid, so I'll be the first to say this was new to me a couple of years ago. A good friend of mine, podcaster Jerry D, he does a Christmas podcast, and so of course this is set at Christmas, so this is one that he told me about. I did a series on TikTok when I first started called Forgotten 80's Flicks, where I would just start talking about movies that I remember seeing as a kid that aren't on like the big top 10 list of 80s movies. And so when I started putting on TikTok, people would flood me with all these, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I found out like this is how I found out about Night of the Comet. But Last Starfighter is one that, of course, I loved as a kid. And kind of my fun story, if you don't mind me sharing, is I remember seeing it on VHS. And then I think when I was in 6th grade, it was the end of the year. And like if you were on the AB honor club, honor roll, whatever, we had like a special, quote unquote, special treat in the cafeteria. So I'm going and thinking it's going to be a pizza party, no big deal. We'll have a little bit of fun. We walk in, they've got all the chairs like and popcorn machines, and they had a screen. They had an actual reel-to-reel copy of The Last Starfighter, and we got to watch it in the cafeteria that afternoon. And I was so excited because of all my friends, I was the only one that had seen it before. It's like, you guys are gonna love this movie. It's so awesome. And so that's one of my fond memories as a kid of like watching The Last Starfighter at school on like a big screen in the school. Was like, it blew my mind. Like, I can have a theater in my school. It was so cool. And just watching that movie, and it's one of my favorites. I love it so much. So I'm glad I got to share that story with you.
I love that story. I love your school.
Yeah.
I don't know who was responsible for that, but they have really good taste.
Yes, they picked the right movie.
That's super awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I can't say we ever got Last Starfighter, but they did it for us too, the cafeteria during test times at the end of the year. You know, for people who had to stay at school and couldn't leave early, you had movies to watch, right? So unfortunately, Last Starfighter was on with them, but I'd probably seen Last Starfighter at that point probably 100 times anyway. So,
yeah, it's so interesting, you know, how sometimes movies that aren't this huge mega success in a theater are just very, very successful behind the scenes, and you don't hear about it. And you know, everybody's like, "Can we please have a sequel? And we need a sequel to The Last Starfighter."
Yeah.
I mean, even with Night of the Comet, at one point Kelly was trying to get the rights to Night of the Comet and to make a sequel. There's been talk back and forth about stuff. There was even talk about making a series and all this other stuff. I'm still in touch with Tom Everhart. He owns the property again. But so there's been different ideas about what to do with it next. But The Last Starfighter is the classic one, you know, where it ends, where of course there should be a sequel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember telling you and Lance before that it would be great would be having like a Netflix series or an Amazon series based on it. You know, that would be keep you guys
really
working for a little while.
Yeah.
And
that would be nice. That would be nice. They better hurry up though, because we're getting old.
I'm just saying, it would keep you guys working for a while. It'd be a great story.
Right.
I think even the people today who are the younger people who might not have watched it when it came out would see a series like that and see like a sci-fi type series and take to it and like it. You can make a very good story out of it.
Yeah.
Quite a few ways they could go with it, but
there are so many ways. Yeah. And you know what would be great is that now that CGI is so well developed,
right.
that would help enormously. But as long as it stayed true to sort of the storytelling, you know, it's about the characters. It's as opposed to just being about the action and the special effects. You can combine stuff.
Yeah, that's the challenge with the sequels and the series. It doesn't have the heart of the original. Then it's kind of a waste. Like, that's what we want. We, you know, talk about fan service and all that kind of stuff. But the ones that have done really well seem to appreciate and love the source material enough to keep the heart of it, even if they do play around with characters and expands and things. But yeah, I would love to see a lot started expanding the world, like see more of more of the outer space and other systems that were there fighting or whatever. So yeah, I would. I mean, I want some stuff on Earth too, but I think that would be cool to see more. You know, like seeing. You know, I know you can't do it now, but I would have loved the sequel for my dream sequel. Would have seen like you getting there and how you experience like your. You know, the fish out of water story for you, like Alex had in the first one, to see how you adapt to life there and all the changes and stuff. So that would have been a cool sequel for me. But
that would have been a cool sequel for me too. But Jonathan Batchelor,
once we build a time machine, then we'll take that back and we'll make sure it gets.
We'll do a whole bunch of flashbacks.
There you go.
And a lot. Speaking of CGI, we could do a whole bunch of CGI on this.
They'll do all the de-aging. There you go.
Yes, which they do. But Jonathan Batchelor, who's the original writer, he owns the property again, and he has written a sequel.
Right.
So he's been shopping it around for a while. And what I like about that is like what you were talking about. Because it's the original writer, I feel like it would be it would stay with the integrity of the original story. Yeah, which is so important, because I agree with you. Sequels or remakes are worse to me. But
rebooting good movies.
No kidding, man.
I was about to bring that up. What he said, you know, even if you don't get like a sequel and say back to Night of the Comet, you'd say you don't get a sequel or anything like that. But what if they were to reimagine or remake Night of the Comet? Do you think it would be successful today?
Well, again, it depends on what they do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been some suggestions about how to do it, but it was always, again, to me, the idea didn't really stay true to the original thing. Trying to update it, what does that mean? Update it, do what everybody else is doing. I don't know.
Right.
I don't
Hopefully
think so.
not.
Yeah.
I kind of like where things kind of stick to. I don't know how to say this the right way. All right. So take the Marvel heroes and everything. If it's a Marvel hero from a comic book in 1980 or 1970, and you're making a movie today, I would like it seen made just like it was in the comic, after that same person's name and everything about them and everything, not updated today to say like they changed it from being a man to a woman, or they were a person of a different race or something like that. I don't have a problem with anybody making movies like that, but if you're going to make something about, say, Shazam or something, don't take Shazam and make him 8 different things he wasn't in the comic books. I like to be a stickler for what it was. And it might do good the other way too. I don't know. I'm not a movie maker, obviously, but I mean, just going off what I guess my preferences are and what I see, I would like just for the things to stay as they were and make it like that. So to remake Night of the Comet, I would like it to be pretty much the same kind of thing. If they the same type story and everything, but then of course bring people back for cameos like you always do when you remake something. You could come back to the be playing a different arcade game now. I don't know what it would be.
Very different. Very
Xbox 3 instead of
it could be something, and looking for DMK
Xbox,
or wherever
it is
that
now.
person ever is. And I did find it funny at the end of the movie. However, you're pushing the button for the crosswalk and you're waiting for the light, and Samantha's like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "We don't cross against the light. We're remaking the world or something." And
that's right. The entire civilization depends on us, or whatever I say.
Right. So you couldn't cross against the light, but it was okay to play football in the middle of the highway,
in the middle of the street, right? Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it was fun.
So I mean, I don't remember if it ever said in the movie or not. Did they ever make mention of survivors in other cities or anything like that?
Not specifically. I think at one point they thought there was somebody else, but maybe it was the scientists that were buried underground or whatever, or was it the scientists who heard the girls? I think that was it. But they didn't get into like the rest of the country or anything like that. Yeah. From what I remember.
I think if you were going to do like a sequel or something, it would be basically exploring who all survived across the country and bringing the people together somehow. Kind of like what The Stand did in the book The Stand or TV movie. How from all across the country they're drawn together somehow to one central location.
Somehow, and all these different characters. You could do a lot with that.
Right.
That's kind of The Walking Dead too, right? Because they're always traveling from one city to the other trying to find
right, but nothing was drawing them in, though. I mean, it's not like something was drawing. They were just trying to find some place safe to be, and in The Stand, something was drawing them in their dreams. Like Mother Abigail, I think her name was, drawing them in their dreams to a certain location, and they just knew to go there or something. But maybe nothing that extreme, but something just they feel like they got to go to this one place, and everybody's being drawn together locally. And now you're rebuilding or something. This is
right.
Of course. But I'm sure that'd be a lot more deeper than that. It'd have to be.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's there's so many things you could do with it.
We could call it Teenage Mutant Comet Zombies 2.
Yeah, that's right. That was the original title. It was the Comet Zombies, right? Teenage Comet Zombies.
Teenage Comet Zombies. Yeah. Which I think was mentioned in the movie at one point. I think Kelly's character she says it at one point in the movie on the radio station.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
She got all the good lines, right?
Those nods
She
to old
got the
people.
iconic lines. Although I did like, "We do not cross against the light."
Do you have a favorite part of this movie that you remember that was your your favorite thing to film in it, or is it? I have a feeling it's probably the zombie, but
Well, yeah, I mean that was really fun. It was just super fun to do that whole sequence. Yeah, so many things. The whole scene with Michael Bowen, in the film booth.
Oh yeah.
I even like, people say at the end of the movie when I'm wearing that really yucky
Very
dress.
very 80s dress. Yeah.
It was very 80's and very, I mean, I chose that because I wanted to be, I am now, like Kelly's wearing, a bathing suit and she's got the little Hawaiian thing on and the sunglasses. And my character is completely the opposite because I'm taking this, we're the last people on earth thing very seriously. And I am going to be the button up matriarch kind of thing. And some people say, why would you wear such an ugly dress? I'm like, well, because that is Reggie, trying to be this completely the opposite of what she was before. Oh, my responsibility now is to blah blah. She was like I don't know, an old English matriarch or something. That was also really super fun to shoot because it was kind of a departure from how the character had been throughout the movie. There's so many, like I said, the scene, talking to the guy about, oh, you have whatever disease it was, all that stuff down in the underground, and pulling tags off my newly bought clothes, or not bought, my newly acquired clothes that was super fun. I mean, the mall thing was fun. It's the drag about a lot of the scenes where they were shot at night, and night shooting is for me just a nightmare, so to speak. Because it just throws your body off so bad. But we shot all that stuff, the whole mall sequence, we shot in one night, so that was kind of challenging. But we had a lot of fun doing it. We weren't even sure what the music was going to be at that point. So, and then, Kelly and I were sort of ad-libbing a bunch of stuff and running up and down the stairs. And it was fun. It was just kind of a fun thing to shoot. It was a lot of work and a lot of weird hours, but we were kind of all in it together. And, it's such a goofy concept that you just got to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, so that was one of my questions, was like, how was this one different than the other movies you filmed around the same time? I know, I guess they were all very different. I mean, from Last Starfighter to Mischief, Weekend at Bernie's, Night of the Comet. Like, I know they were all different, but what do you? I want to ask you, which one did you like better? Because I'm sure they all had pros and cons. But what really set this one apart from the others that makes it stand out? What, are you more close knit? Just the night shoots, or what stands out to you?
Yeah. Well, I think that it was, like I said, sort of we were all in it together. It was sort of a smaller group of people just kind of doing what we had to do. Nobody was put on a pedestal. We were just sort of having fun. And Tom Everhart was great. It was interesting because I think there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that I wasn't aware of. In terms of, like, the producers wanted to make a horror movie, and Tom was like, yeah, it's not really a traditional horror movie. Yeah, there's some scary bits in it, but he really wanted to have that kind of comical element in there. I mean, he did his research for this was he talked to these teenage girls about what they would do if it was the end of the world, And in traditional apocalyptic movies, everybody's freaking out and they're crying or drinking or taking drugs or something to numb, or just so scared. And the girls, he was, I think, surprised by the reaction, which was, what, no parents? Excellent. And I think that's where he got the idea, Well, we would hit the malls. We would just, put on whatever we wanted to put on. There was not this whole kind of classical story of, oh, we're helpless and we wouldn't know what to do. It was like, this is fantastic, So that, yeah, you can make it super scary and everything. And we did shoot some scenes where we responded to certain scenes like, this is terrible. And then in other ways, we would do more sort of tongue in cheek and more the way that Tom envisioned it to be. So like I said, it was small. It was a small group of people. It was sort of more guerrilla filmmaking. We all knew that there was no money, and we were just all. But there was some very, very talented people involved with it. So I think that made a huge difference.
Yeah, sometimes you have more fun when there's limitations because you have to be more creative. And like I read about the scene with like Sam. There's a scene of her going to the elevator that really wasn't her. It was like a costume designer that wore her tennis shoes. And like he got praised for like what a great shot to not show her full body, but just her feet. And it's like, well, that's just because we ran out of money. We had to go back and do a reshoot. She wasn't available, so we made this happen. And it's like that's the beauty of that kind of filmmaking when it's small, where it's like you got to make it happen. You come up with a creative way to tell the story that goes outside of the parameters what somebody else would have done if they had full budget to do it. So very cool.
Yeah. I mean, a lot. We were talking about budgets earlier, and there's just so insane, $200 million.
Yeah.
A lot of that it goes to the actors, because if you look at these movies and who the lead, Tom Cruise is a classic example, but most of the budget is going to this guy, which is sort of sad. I feel like because. Well, he needs another $100 million, of course.
Who can't use an extra $100 million laying around?
I know.
Yeah.
But so it's these movies with these big actors. Such a huge chunk of the budget goes to them, which is also the drag for somebody like me. Is that the lesser characters, when I work, and I'm still working, I get paid less than I was paid back in the 80s. You get the minimum wage that our union allows, and then sometimes they'll add on 10% for you to give to your agent. And that happens in these giant movies too. Scale plus 10. I mean, I can't guarantee it because I haven't been in one of these movies, but the budget goes to the actors, and then everybody else gets scale plus 10. And I think it's criminal.
Yeah.
And they get away with it. And the other thing that I'm kind of mad about these days is our union. It's like they just don't, we're not as well protected as we used to be, put it that way.
I know voice actors are really afraid of AI coming in and taking over their stuff. Does that affect what you do as well?
Well, it can. I mean, that was one of the big reasons for the strike that we did.
Yeah.
But AI, it will change everything. I think.
I mean, I can download a program today where I could just speak as my normal voice, but it comes out sounding like Morgan Freeman or somebody else, exactly like them. I mean, it's amazing what they can do with it. So I imagine if you could duplicate somebody's voice, it probably wouldn't be too hard for them to take an image of your face from a movie and.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. They negotiated something like, well, they have to tell you if they're going to do stupid. It's like, oh, great, excellent, and maybe you'll get paid a little something. But it really is going to change everything, as it already is.
Right.
So, in a way, when I was just coming up in the back in the day when I was doing it, and it was really fun. I think they made some pretty great, creative, fun movies. We were treated well. You had to work your way up the ladder. You were paid based on your experience. It's just a whole different industry now. And also, of course, we didn't have social media. I mean, social media plays a huge part in these. It's like they're casting social media people because they have it'll be a guaranteed audience or something.
Right.
It's just a different from auditioning where you don't even meet anybody anymore. You put yourself on tape and you send it out. You don't even get to meet anybody, which I used to like to do. You walk in a room, you meet the casting person, you have a conversation, you do your read, they give you some direction or whatever, and you do it again. Now it's just like there's no feedback, none, zero. You have to send this thing out. You have to do everything yourself. You have to set up the camera. You have to light the thing, and they have all these instructions about how the format and how you should do this, and then you have to edit it down into your. You have to do everything the casting people used to do, which I don't like. I mean, I would like to be able to focus on my work, not what I look like or the lighting or all this other stuff. So it's a different industry now. But having said that, the younger actors, that's all they know, so they're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a disservice somehow. Yeah. I feel like
I can see that.
Yeah. But anyway, it was fun in the 80s.
That's what I say.
Right.
Things were always better back in the 80s. That's why we're always trying to go back now.
No, I know, but it's so funny. Yeah, it was a fun time. It was fun.
Well, Tim, do you have anything else that you want to ask or anything before? Because we've it's getting about time to wrap up.
Yeah. No, it was a pleasure to meet you and to get to have this conversation. So, I mean, pretty much answered my questions that I thought of and came up. But I just thank you. It was a great movie. It was good to see. I was going to make a mention about this being, I guess after Terminator with like Linda Hamilton being like the aliens, Sigourney Weaver. You got Linda Hamilton, and you've got Catherine Mary Stewart as the heroine.
The Belmont sisters.
Exactly. There you go. So
girl power.
Yeah, exactly. So it was. I mean, like I said, because I didn't see it at the time, but going back and watching it now, like how one of the groundbreaking movies of the 80s to put the women in the forefront as being the heroes. Hector's great, but he's not, he doesn't come to save you guys. I mean, you all kind of work together as a team and you kind of save him in certain aspects. So just, a great movie. I wish more people knew about it and were watching it. So hopefully this gives more exposure to that, but just, it was wonderful talking to you. Thanks for letting me be a part.
Tim. That means a lot. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. I feel like at conventions. I was just going to say at conventions, a lot of women come up and say, it was empowering seeing two women being able to actually take care of themselves. What and guys like it too. I always feel like I'm talking. What's that cereal? And I no. What is it? Oh, and it doesn't matter. It was. But guys like it too is the point, is that there's this sort of, I feel like this kind of general mentality about how, you can't make women strong because it intimidates guys or something like that. But no, it makes me crazy, that sort of thing. But
no, one of my favorite Marvel movies is Black Widow. And it's all about the Natasha Romanoff character, Black Widow. I mean, she doesn't have superpowers or anything. But she can fight well. She's trained and everything, all that type of work.
Right.
So that was like one of my favorites, and people made a big deal about that because it was just from, the women were the heroine, and I'm like, well, they're bad though. They're awesome. What wasn't there like about it? I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't matter if it's a male or female in the hero role. I mean, it's the story you're going to like, what the movie's about, not the person doing it.
But it's also the what we call the every man, every woman hero. It's like like I said, you didn't have any special abilities. Like, there's nothing we see you like doing any special like combat training in the beginning. Like you see in a typical action movie, you're thrown in this situation and we're drawn to your character because, hey, she's just like me. If that happened to me, what would I do? But, so it doesn't matter whether, really it didn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You're just that person that we can relate to that takes care of the zombies and finds a way to win at the end of the day. So, but yeah, it's great. I like that. I think it's good storytelling and good. Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I think like I said before, we were sort of unapologetically teenage girls. Except we did have, because our father was a Green Beret, we did have
a little bit of
with
training.
guns.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
just a little bit,
just a little bit. Yeah.
Enough that you can take a zombie out,
Yeah, right. I know.
I haven't had training to take a zombie out or anything like that. That's cool. I mean,
well, I could teach you some stuff.
I mean, I need some lessons for sure. So
yeah.
And the way that I get those lessons is you show up at a Comic-Con near where I'm at, so I can finally go to that Comic-Con. See, that's what we got to do.
Oh, yeah.
I have mentioned your, just so you know, I have thrown your name out at like 3 different ones close by. I said, look, you got to get this person in here. You got to bring this person with her, and you got to bring this person with her, because you bring these people with her, you're going to get the makings of 2 good movies that people love and people are going to come out for. And of course, I threw out Lance's name and Kelly's name along with yours.
Good. Yeah.
And I said, if you want to get really fancy with it, bring the Bernie people in here too.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying,
that would be fun.
If the people from the Comic-Con in Knoxville or Huntsville call knocking on your door, that's me. I know I threw it out there.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I think that does help enormously. When people suggest stuff. For sure.
Hopefully, in all seriousness, hopefully it does. I would, it would be great to see to get to this part of the country at a Comic-Con. You and some of the others and everything. So,
yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do appreciate you coming on with us again and talking Night of the Comet. Like I said, such a great movie to fall back on, especially with Halloween coming back up and everything. It's just a fun watch. And I hope if there's anybody that's more on the younger side, I do have some younger listeners, but I was surprised that do listen to the show. If you guys want to see a great movie, and yes, you're going to look at it right now and you're going to say, well, this is so cheesy, but it's the 1980s. Okay. Like she said earlier, there's no CGI. It's different. Okay. Different style of filming. It's great though. The story's fun. Characters are fun. And I think you'll really enjoy the movie if you get a chance to watch it. So just make sure you do.
Just go with it.
Do you have anything currently going on? Do you want to put out there anything that you're doing, or?
Well, actually, I have a convention coming up. Where is that convention? Richmond, Virginia. Nightmare Weekend, and Lance and I are doing that one. So that's coming up next weekend.
Yeah, you're close.
Yeah, next weekend. So yeah, I'm close to that. What else? What else? Oh, and it's so funny. I mean, I've only done 2 conventions this year, but I feel like this has been such a busy year. I don't know why. I think I've been just really busy with personal stuff, like family things, all very, very positive, all really super fun.
But you're also going to some of these showings and screenings and stuff, and not just cons, really,
Yeah, and that's right. I'll be in Santa Ana in November, the weekend of November 9th. So they're screening the very first movie I ever did, which was called The Apple.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with that little ditty.
See, I'm gonna tell you what. Hey, look, let me tell you, before you go any further, if Travis was here today, he would stop you right there and tell you, "I'm gonna get you back on here. We're gonna talk about The Apple." Because he has said he has said several times
about The Apple.
He's said several times that he wants to talk about that movie. Because it was so funny when the first time you come on here, he brought that up. You look like you were surprised that anybody knew about The Apple or something, or would talk about it. And then you had a good conversation about that movie for a little bit, and then he was like, "You know what? We got to get her back on and talk about The Apple." That's an episode right there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and they're doing it. Like I said, they're doing a midnight screening at midnight. It's like, I think it starts around 10 or something like that. It's called the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana. So come on out for that. That's on the Saturday. And then on the Sunday during the day, they're screening The Last Starfighter. So, so that would be super fun if everybody came up.
I'm super jealous. California gets all the good stuff, Tim.
I know.
All Nashville gets is rednecks and country music. I mean, come on.
Well, that ain't bad. That ain't bad. Yeah.
We want more, though. All right. Well, once again, just definitely, hey, thanks for coming back on again. I look forward to the Weekend at Bernie's episode. I've always loved that movie as well. That's going to be a fun one. So much funny stuff to go over in that movie. So much funny stuff. But we'll definitely see you then. It's going to be, I think, in November sometime. November 17th possibly is when that when we're recording it. It'll probably be
Okay.
more close to the week of Thanksgiving when it releases. But in November, to say the least, we'll do Weekend at Bernie's and back for that.
Okay,
So,
cool.
all right.
Cool.
Thanks
Sounds
a lot.
great. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you,
Well, hey.
Tim. Thanks for coming on board.
Thanks for having me, and hopefully I get you on my show pretty soon. We'll have you come in and talk to me some.
That would be great. You'll do good on Tim's show. Be great.
Yes, I haven't done that one yet, so yeah.
Yeah, talk about an underrated movie. I love that movie.
Yeah, I just rewatched it a couple of weeks ago, so I remember I'd seen that one a couple of times. It's so fun. Yeah, it's such a fun movie.
It is a fun.
Oh yeah, no kidding. I got lots of good stories for that one too.
Very cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks once again. Thanks for being on, and we'll see you in November when you come back for Bernie's.
Sounds good. I look forward to it.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Tim. That was Catherine Mary Stewart, everybody. The Night of the Comet, and of course other movies such as Last Starfighter, and we mentioned Weekend at Bernie's and Mischief and everything. Join us, telling us all about Night of the Comet. I'm so thankful she could come on again. Hopefully y'all can work that out, Tim, where you get on and talk about Mischief and everything. She's really fun to have on, as you can see. Tells a lot of great stories. I'll go ahead and put it out there for those listening. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and Facebook at Retro Life for You. And if you have any suggestions or questions, reach out at retrolifeforyou@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to address them with you. If you want to just listen to us or watch us online, we're on YouTube as well. You'll see the video part of this on YouTube, and you can go to the website itself at retrolifeforyou. It's the number 4, the letter U.com, and in the show notes, you can see the video. It's embedded there, playing there as well. Tim, if you will, let them know where they can find you at also.
80's Flick Flashback Podcast. We're on all your favorite podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, and we're just now added to YouTube. So it's not a video per se, like I don't have video of the actual episodes, but YouTube now has an actual podcasting platform there that you can listen to the episodes. It'll just have my logo on the front, but I've only uploaded the episodes that were released in 2024, but you can definitely check out the newer episodes there, and follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search for 80's Flick Flashback, and you can go to our website, 80sflickflashback.com, and you'll see all of our ways to listen and watch and all that fun stuff there too.
All right, great. Well, Tim, I would personally thank you for coming on and helping out this week. It was great having you on to participate and with Catherine out there and make a great show out of it. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And we hope you're enjoying the month of Halloween or month of scary movies that we are doing. We previously had Fright Night, and now we've got Night of the Comet, and upcoming the next 2 movies. I don't know in which order they'll be, but we've got Night of the Demon and Poltergeist coming up. So that'll round out our month of scariness. And then we'll move on to a few normal shows before Christmas comes around. So that being said, we'll go ahead and drop us out of here, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye, everybody.